we're going to do some work with some interest problems. Here we have simple interest. Here we have a deposit of $10,000 at 11% simple interest and $5,000 at 6% also simple interest. How much money do we have total at the end of 5 years? So we deposit $10,000 at 11% simple interest, $5,000 at 6%. How much do we have total at the end of 5 years? So remember, simple interest is I equals PRT. We're dealing with two different deposits though. So we've got the interest from the first deposit, which would be sub 1, and then the interest from the second, which would be sub 2. So our total interest is going to equal the two interests added together. However, the total money that we have, so the total money is going to equal the total interest plus the initial dollar amount that we deposit. So at the end, we're going to have to add that $16,000, the $10,000 plus $5,000, actually $5,000, $15,000, I think I said $15,000, $10,000 plus $5,000. So let's try and solve for this right here, our total interest, and then we'll add back that initial deposit, and that'll give us a total amount that we have at the end of 5 years. So we've got two interests. We've got interest 1. I'm going to do this in color. So I've got interest 1, and then I'm going to have interest 2. So interest 1 is going to be our principal, which is $10,000, times the rate, which is 11%, times the time in years, which is 5 years. Then we're going to add to that our second interest. So this is our yellow right here. Yellow, yellow. And now we're going to do our green. And we'll do green right here. And then remember, we're going to add back that $15,000. That's our initial deposit, the total deposit. Because just because we're depositing it doesn't mean we don't have it anymore. We deposit it and that we still have that money plus all the interest that we earned. So we'll have $5,000 for our principal times our interest rate of 6% for 5 years. So I'm going to go to my calculator and I'm going to multiply 10,000 times 0.11 times 5. Now if I don't have a calculator, I'm going to change that 11 hundredths to a fraction. And the same thing over here. The 6 hundredths, I'm going to change that to a fraction. So 100, let's see, those two zeros will cancel out with two of those zeros. So I have 100 times 11 times 5. 100 times 11 is 1100 times 5 is 5500. Here, the two zeros are going to cancel out with those two zeros. 50 times 6 is 300. 300 times 5 is 1500. Plus the 15,000 that we initially deposited. And that's going to give us, this is 7,000 plus 15,000. That's going to be $22,000. Now, you can use a calculator if you like. You're still going to get the same answers I got. But I like to show you sometimes that you can get through a problem without using a calculator. So you go ahead and try the next one. And then come back here and check your answers. Okay, this one is worded a little bit differently, so you got to make sure you read the problem. If you deposit and then deposit a second amount, how much interest did you earn at the end of 3 years? So this time we just want our total interest. So our total interest is going to be our first interest plus our second interest. So I'm going to highlight those. Interest, interest. Then remember, I is equal to PRT. So in our first, we've got 2,000 for our principal. Our rate is 5%, and we're talking about 3 years. Plus our second deposit of $500 at 12%. Again for 3 years, and that's going to be our total interest. Sub T stands for total. I stands for interest. So 2,000 times 5 over 100 times 3 over 1 plus 500 times 12 over 100 times 3 over 1. These two zeros cancel out with those two zeros. 20 times 5 is 100, times 3 is $300, plus those two zeros. 5 times 12 is 60. 60 times 3 is 180. So the total interest is $480. $480 earned in interest. That's a lot of money just to have your money sit in the bank for 3 years.